This is the Chris Plante Show.
Washington's Mall, WMAL. Washington's Mall, 105.9 FM, WMAL.
The president said there was no collusion, there was no collusion. There are hints that that's certainly what Mueller may have been looking at. How big a deal is it if they don't find collusion?
Really not a thing at all. We'll just make up something else. That was Martha Raddatz at ABC News. But Michelle Goldberg at the New York Times, these people are insane. I mean, honestly, the second big lie is that Russia didn't help elect Trump and that the president has been absolved of collusion. They're literally peddling this. The New York Times today. It's true that the report by Robert Mueller, the former special counsel, did not find enough evidence to prove a criminal conspiracy. Well, that's actually how the justice system works, Michelle. I don't know what planet you're from, you little Nazi, but that's how the justice system works. You see, they can throw millions and millions of dollars and 40 investigators at you for a year and a half, and if they don't find enough to convict you on, then you're not guilty. See how that works, Michelle? I don't know if you're familiar with Western jurisprudence and the lessons of the Enlightenment, but perhaps you should review them. Take a few minutes. Just saying. It wasn't enough to prove a criminal conspiracy between Trump's campaign and Russian state actors, but the Mueller report found abundant evidence that the campaign sought Russian help. You know what they consider sought Russian help? President Trump on stage with 30,000 people in front of him saying, hey, Russia, why don't you find Hillary Clinton's 33,000 emails that they destroyed weeks after getting a congressional subpoena telling them to preserve those? Remember that, Michelle? I guess you probably don't. You know, you don't have much of a brain. That seems pretty clear. That's right, the Russian help. But Mueller report found abundant evidence campaign sought Russian help, benefited from that help, and obstructed FBI investigations into Russian actions. I got to tell you, I mean, look, these are from the same people that tell you that 55 million abortions are women's health. All right. They're not normal people. They don't think well. They don't use their brains as designed. And they don't know what words mean. This is the sad conclusion that I've come to over time. Now, we've got Elizabeth Warren. Elizabeth Warren lies a lot. We know that, right? We all know this? We all know that she lies a lot. She's been caught lying a lot. Remember, she was a Cherokee Indian, and she said that she never claimed she was, and then forms, and she always claimed she was, and then the forms emerged where she said Native American on the forms, and she lied about it, and then she said her parents weren't allowed to date, and they had to date in secret, then they had to elope because her grandparents were racists or something, and then that was a lie. Turned out that was a lie. And then she said that Harvard didn't promote her based on her Native American heritage. That was a lie. Really, there are just a lot of lies. She's got a whole bundled package of lies all over the place. And then, I think I'm going to get me a beer. And I don't think she even had a beer. I think she lies about everything. But she certainly doesn't drink beer. But she got caught lying again. This time about her kids going to public school. Because she was a school teacher for a while. And then she lied. She said, remember, she lost her job as a teacher because she was pregnant. And then the documents emerged, and that was a lie. That she just lies about everything. Dan Rather didn't report them. He only reports on fake documents, see, like for George Bush. But when real documents that show that Democrats are frauds and charlatans and liars and have used race and falsehoods, fraud to get ahead throughout their careers, the news media completely ignores it. They build a wall around it, and they protect it like it's the Bidens or something. So she was caught again. And this is a good one. Denied sending her kids to private school. The Daily Caller has the story. Peter Hassan. Democratic presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren denied sending her children to private schools, despite the fact she sent her son to an elite private school. When school choice activists confronted her after a campaign rally Thursday, Warren said her children didn't go to private schools. And we actually have the audio of this nice lady. And all the people who are interested in school choice and were chanting at the rally and stuff, they're all African-American. I think all of them are African-American. And it looked like a nice group of concerned parents who are wearing matching T-shirts, and they're on the side of truth, justice, and the American way. And, of course, choice. Democrats think if you want to kill your children, you should have that choice. But if you want to send them to the school 1 block from your house, you should have no choice in that matter because they now own your children and they're going to do with them whatever they wish, right? So these nice people with this organization, a nice lady came up to her after the rally, and they're chanting, we want to be heard, something. And Warren didn't want to listen to them. And she, the nice lady went up to Elizabeth Warren after the thing and said, we're going to have the same choice that you had for your kids because I read your children went to private schools. And Warren pretending to be cordial, but was clearly afraid, intimidated by, am I right about that? You see the video? She was intimidated by this woman who was very mellow, but she's a black woman. You know how these liberals are afraid of black people. She said, no, my children went to public schools. No, my children, my papa went to public schools with high cheekbones and cheekbones.
We don't have the same choice that you make for your kids because I read that your children went to private school.
My children went to public school.
But we even if
she just lied
school,
there.
It probably was the best public school.
Yeah, okay. Publicly, she just said, no, my children went to public schools. Papa, C-O-P-D. I do a better impersonation of her than Saturday Night Live does, because they don't really want to do her any harm, do they? But publicly available records show that Elizabeth Warren, who has pledged to crack down on school choice if elected, chose to send her son, Alexander, to Kirby School, an elite private school in the Austin, Texas area, the Daily Caller News Foundation previously reported. Kirby Hall's 1987 yearbook lists Alexander Warren among the school's fifth graders. And then her campaign came out and said, well, Alexander went to public school to fifth grade, and then he went to Papa school, high cheekbones. And so they're now making up a new lie. And now you got to go back and check out the new lie, but nobody will, because NBC and the Washington Post are not in the news business, and neither is CNN. Alexander, like most fifth graders that year, turned 11 in 1987, public records accessed through the research service LexisNexis show. That coincided with Warren's final year teaching at the University of Texas at Austin, which is located a short drive from the elite private school. Warren's campaign told the Washington Free Beacon on Friday that despite the senator's denial, she did in fact send her son to private school. That's right, they had to admit. Elizabeth's daughter went to public school. Her son went to public school until fifth grade, said Kristen Orthman, who's lying for her lying boss and communications director for the Warren campaign. The group of parent activists interrupted a Warren campaign rally in Atlanta on Thursday with chants of, "Our children, our choice, and we want to be heard." Now, this is just classic lefty stuff. You know? I mean, I love the word choice. You want to send your kids to a school that you want to send your kids to? The one that, you moved to this neighborhood because you wanted your kids to go to this school? Well, no. Warren and her henchmen are going to come in and they're going to grab them by the hair and they're going to do with them what they want because they're Stalinists. And, they're trying in these counties around Washington, D.C., they're trying to reach what they call parity, where the percentage of students that come from households in each economic strata will be equal in all of the schools around the county, regardless of where you live or what the schools are in your neighborhood. So turn your kids over to MS-13. The Democrats have a social program they're attempting to advance.
My papa had high cheekbones like all of the Indians do.
You're listening to The Chris Plante Show.
Now, the economy is booming. It's going like gangbusters. Yesterday, all three indexes on Wall Street hit new all-time records. The Dow Jones Industrials, the S&P, and the NASDAQ all broke records for like the 26th time or something since President Trump was elected. The unemployment rate has not been this low since 1969, since 1969, before most people in America were even born. The unemployment rate for African Americans Lowest since unemployment rates have been kept in the United States for Hispanics. Lowest since unemployment rates kept for women. Lowest in more than a generation, close to 2 generations. For high school dropouts, lowest unemployment rate, I believe, in measured history. For every category, it's just going crazy. The economy is booming. According to Stuart Varney, the economy has created more than $11.3 trillion in newly created wealth since Election Day in 2016. Household incomes are up about $7,000 per household. $5,000 plus $2,000 in tax credits comes out to about $7,000 per household in increased income. So naturally, I looked at the headlines today for the good news on the economy. But instead, what I found was from USA Today. Never mind impeachment, swing state trade war and economic woes could doom Trump in 2020. From CNBC, Dallas Fed President Robert Kaplan says the fourth quarter economy is weak. The word weak is in quotation marks. One guy in Texas said the word weak. That's their headline. There's no mention of all the boom time economic activity at all.
WMAL-FM Woodbridge, Washington. 105.9.
So the New York Times is once again smearing and slandering a decorated Marine Corps combat veteran with their usual slime. In this case, it's Michelle Goldberg, who is dripping in the goo of the Democrat Party. The headline in the New York Times is Republicans' big lie about Trump and Russia. See, the big lie is a reference to Gergel. That's Gergel. That's their boy Gergel, the socialist from Germany. And Michelle types on behalf of the extreme radical mentally ill left. She types, there are 2 very big lies that Donald Trump and his sycophants have used. Through aggressive, bombastic repetition. Well, I know that's your lane, Michelle, getting a little proprietary here, I guess, to shape the public debate about impeachment and about Trump's legitimacy more broadly. See, they're still challenging his legitimacy, and you're all his sycophants because, she's an angry, she could be a suicide bomber before this is over. The first big lie, see, big lie, that's Gergel again, is that, quote, the people, end quote, elected Trump. That's the first big lie, is that the people is the New York Times. They're communists. They would burn the country down just to steal $1 more out of your pocket. The first big lie is that the people elected Trump and that the constitutional provision of impeachment would invalidate their choice. In fact, Trump is president only because a constitutional provision invalidated the choice of the American people. She's talking about the Electoral College. They would stack the Supreme Court, do away with the filibuster, do away with the Senate, do away with the Electoral College, and we'd be a banana republic shooting each other in the streets. There'd be tanks everywhere, and we'd all die at 15, as, if they were able to implement their plans. Trump lost the popular vote and might have lost the Electoral College without Russian interference. This is literally what they're writing. They're very severely mentally ill. And yet many Democrats and pundits have been bullied into accepting the fiction that he has democratic and not just constitutional legitimacy. They really despise our system of government. She should be deported from the United States to Venezuela, and she should never be allowed to leave. She should be eating out of garbage trucks tomorrow. The second big lie is that Russia didn't help elect Trump. This is literally the tear she's on, and she's very severely ill.
This is the Chris Plante Show.